Welcome to Sakshi TV's special immigration show with attorney Bhanu Babu Illindra from BBI Law Group. Please note that Sakshi TV now has 3 immigration shows every week. On Tuesday at 3 p.m. EST with attorney Ms. Sheila Murthy, Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. EST with attorney Ms. Prashanti Reddy in English, and on Friday at 6 p.m. EST with attorney Bhanu Illindra. Please tune in to ask your questions. If you're an immigration attorney and would like to join our special shows, please email us at usa@sakshi.com or call 866-725-7441. Before we begin the show, please note that the information provided on this show is not a legal advice. Use of content is for general informational purposes only. Sakshi TV or its agents in the USA or our guests on this show are not responsible for use of information as a legal advice. If you need specific legal advice, please contact attorneys directly. We will be also taking any general immigration questions along with today's topic. Hello Bhanu Garu, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you, Torani. Thank you very much for welcoming me back.
How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing good, Torani. What about you?
Very well, thank you. So, today's topic is the USCIS site visits and its compliance for the H-1B program. Before anything, let me remind you that this is continuation to the last week's topic. We will continue the knowledge session this week along with the news and updates on latest immigration, followed by Q&A. Before we get into the topic, you can call us on the numbers on the screen for questions related to immigration and also ask for tips. So, Bhanu Garu, do we have any updates on immigration this week?
Not much. Not many new recent updates this week. We are still waiting to hear some from the USCIS and also from the Department of State consulates. The only update I would like to inform everyone is for the individuals who are actually planning to go for H-1B visa stamping at the consulates, especially in Chennai and Hyderabad through Dropbox facilities, who is availing the visa interview waiver option, that is by submitting the documents at the Dropbox without them personally attending the interview. And there, the Dropbox, they actually made a new update with the list of the documents what is required. In them, the consulate started asking again end-client agreements, end-client letters, and other documents pertaining to the employer-employee relationship, especially in employer-vendor-client relationship. We have seen several cases coming like that. We are actually questioned the Department of State's authority to question our request or demand for the end-client letters or anything like that. But this is the trend which we are seeing. If you do not submit those documents, then it's very likely that you will be called for the interview. And then once they call you for the interview, they may issue 221G asking you or demanding to provide such information to determine the outcome of your visa. This is a very disturbing trend we are seeing at the consulates, especially after the lawsuit filed by the IT-Serve Alliance and the court ruling in favor of the IT-Serve Alliance, and accordingly USCIS resigning the itinerary memo and the neutral memo, but still they're asking for the definite itinerary and client letters and all these things at the consulates. So this is an issue which we will be bringing to the notice of the consulates that they should not do it. And also, probably again, we may have to go through the litigation process against the Department of State on this issue. But be wary of it, be aware of it. If you do have assignment with a third-party company, if you can secure those documents, if you can procure those documents until this issue is solved or resolved, I think it may be better for you to provide those documents to them. So it's very important for you all to remember this. So especially with the Dropbox appointments, and don't worry, don't get confused if they ask you those things. Even if you do not have, you should let them know that you're not required to provide that information under the recent USCIS memo that rescinded the neutral memo and the definite itinerary memo, which is actually what they're asking you. So that is the important update I would like to provide in today's show. And remaining thing is to remind you all again that the H-1B CAP registration for fiscal year 2023 is going to start on March 1, 2022 and going to end on March 18, 2022. It's going to start on the noon of March 1, 2022 and end on noon of March 18, 2022. Therefore, we request all the employers and the employees who intend to utilize or get into the lottery, possible lottery for the fiscal year 2023 H-1B program, please make sure that you properly register your employees' H-1B petition case with the USCIS so that if they get selected in the lottery, they should be able to file H-1B petition for them. And we are still accepting the cases for the registration. And I would like to tell you on behalf of Sakshi TV, we got an opportunity to tell that we don't charge anything for the registration purposes, H-1B registration program. For example, if your company intends to register H-1B petition on behalf of any individual, we don't charge anything for that registration. Only the charges will be the USCIS fees. For our services, we are extending courtesy of providing free services for the registration purposes. So if you need to be registrations done for you or on in behalf of your company, kindly feel free to reach us. Our office number is 703-496-7722. My email ID is bhanu@bbilawgroup.com. You can also reach us at contact@bbilawgroup.com or at crm@bbilawgroup.com. We are very happy to provide the services for your registration. We don't charge anything for the registration, so utilize our services. Sometimes if you do by yourself, unfortunately, you may do mistakes and you may lose the opportunity to get into the lottery again. Therefore, we recommend you to use lawyer services all the time. Lawyers like us, if not us, somebody else. But as I said, in our firm, we do it for free. So that is an advantage you have using us. And we are very happy to provide those services.
Right. So, Bhanu Garu, today we are talking about the USCIS site visits and its compliance with the H-1B program. So, would you want to start off with the importance of these site visits and what steps need to be taken to prepare oneself before the site visit happens?
I could not understand your question because of the lack of clarity in the sound. But however, I'm assuming that you're asking about the what is FDA in the site visit, right? I mean, is that what you're asking?
Right. Yes, Bhanu Garu. That's what I was asking.
Okay. See, FDA in the site visit is a program created by the USCIS for the purpose of verifying fraud, to deter any fraud or misrepresentation in utilizing H-1B visa program by the employers. That program actually meant not only for the H-1Bs, for the L1s also and for F1s also. But however, right now, these compliance requirements are installed only for the H-1B visa program right now. So under this FDNS authority to conduct the compliance review programs, which we call site visits, and there are two types of site visits which they can do. One is ASVP, basically is that this just an automatic. It's a site visit program, which is a regular common compliance review program. Other one is targeted site visit verification program, which is usually done when that's called TSVVP. So there are two types of programs. One is ASVVP, other one is TSVVP. ASVVP is nothing but a regular compliance review to ensure that the petition which you filed, are you being in compliance with the terms and conditions of the petition what you submitted to the USCIS. That's what it is all about. Whereas TSVVP is targeted site visit verification program, where you actually look into the verification complaints because some officer actually felt like there is something suspicious things are going on with the petition that has been filed, whether they may suspect a fraud or a misrepresentation or a willful violations of H-1B program compliance rules. That's what they look into, and that's why it's called TSVVP. So when they do TSVVP, then it is more vigorous in nature, whereas in the regular ASVVP compliance, it's just a regular compliance review program. And you all have to understand this. Participating in this compliance review program by the employer or the employee is completely voluntary. It does not mean that because the officer asks you and asking you to provide certain information for your H-1B program, you need not really provide that information. You can simply tell the officer, we decline to provide information. You make the decision based upon the information what you have in the file, and we will abide by it. You can do that. Or you can actually ask them, you can actually provide the information what they're asking to show that you are actually in compliance. That is what the ASVP compliance review is all about. If it comes to targeted site verification visa program, they're going to go beyond your H-1B petition. They're going to look into your company's activities and other things also, and they will actually go with all that information there, Torani Garu. So there are two types of investigations, as I said.
Right.
You know. Hello.
Right. Yeah. So, Bhanugaru, what what is the authority of FDNS to conduct these audits or site visits?
The authority for the establishing the fraud and willful misapplication program is actually provided by the Congress to the USCIS. They actually provided USCIS to collect a separate fee called anti-fraud fee while somebody is filing an H-1B visa or L-1 visa, and that fund is particularly utilized to create separate department in the USCIS to deter or to eradicate any fraud or misrepresentation or any misusing of H-1B visa program. That's where the authority comes in for the FDNS to conduct these site visits. And also, because of that authority given to the USCIS did make the changes to the Form I-129, where you also actually voluntarily give your consent to the USCIS to conduct these site visits upon approval of H-1B petition or while this petition is in process with the USCIS or with the Department of State. You actually sign to that in the Form I-129 saying that you're okay, you're in compliance and you're okay for the site visits to be conducted at the place where the principal place of business is located or at the work location where the employee is intended to perform services. And that's where it is. That's where they're already coming because you're giving them consent at the time of filing H-1B petition. You may question whether seeking the consent at the time of filing H-1B petition is proper or improper. You may cancel that and you may send the H-1B petition. USCIS may turn it back to you saying that your petition is not properly filed and you may lose an opportunity filing an H-1B petition also. So that's where the authority actually comes for the USCIS to conduct these site visits.
But isn't that violating civilian consent?
I'm sorry?
But isn't that violating a civilian's consent?
It's not, because they are actually providing the consent to the USCIS when they're seeking the benefit that they are in compliance with the H-1B regulations. They're going to be in compliance with the H-1B regulations, and they're providing consent for the USCIS to verify that information. What they're providing is true and correct. You are basically certifying that under the penalty of perjury, saying that the information what you're providing is true and correct, and USCIS has an authority to verify whether the information provided them is truth or not.
Right.
It's nothing against the civilian's consent or anything like that.
Right. So what kind of audits or, site visits do these people do? I mean, is it only physical or can it be done electronically as well?
The site visits can happen in several manners. One is the officers can walk in physically to your office or to the work location where the employee is performing services, and they can actually inquire whether the employee do in fact working in the position for which H-1B petition has been filed. Other way is the employer, there could be even remote inquiry also, or a virtual inquiry also, like by telephone interviews, by telephone calls, or by emails, electronic mails, or by some other any format which they can contact you and get the information from you. See, prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, we used to see a lot of in-office visits by the FDNS officers to verify whether employers are in compliance and the employees are in compliance with the H-1B visa program, But during the pandemic, because they can't visit or meet anybody in person, they were actually conducting these visits, these verifications virtually, either by telephone or by email. We're still seeing the trend is going on because pandemic has not ended yet. So, but in some cases, very special cases where we are seeing officers are walking into the employer's office or some other office, but not that prominently these days. So you have two ways where the officers can do these verifications, one in person or virtually, by email or by telephone, whichever way possible for them to do that.
Right, right. So is it a good idea to cooperate with them when they come down for a site visit, or is it okay to decline them?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
So is it a good idea to cooperate with these officers, or when they come down for a site visit, or is it okay to decline them?
It depends upon the situation. I mean, you have nothing to worry about. Your petition is properly filed, everything is in compliance. It's up to you. I mean, you can decline. I mean, telling them that, I mean, I don't want to answer anything. I'm going to remain silent because it's a voluntary participation. I don't have to really participate in this compliance review, and let the USAs make a decision on that. Or sometimes, why not? Why can't we be friendly with them? Why can't we cooperate with them? When we are in compliance with the regulations and everything, I don't see any reason to comply with it and provide the verification what they're asking, or confirming that the information what they're asking is correct or not, right? But officers, when they ask the questions beyond the purview of compliance requirements, then you should decline them. You should not encourage them. You should not answer them. And if they say anything, you should tell them that they should talk to your attorney and let the attorneys deal from there. Let the attorneys take over the issue from there and handle that issue. You have to understand this. Even though they're officers, they don't have a right to question you beyond the purview of the compliance requirements. If they ask you any question that you feel or you deem it's beyond the requirements of beyond the compliance requirements, then you can actually deny participating in that compliance review. Tell them that you're not interested in talking anything, and let them make a decision with the information they have on the record.
Right, right. So, Mr. Bhanu, what are the kind of typical information that they may ask the civilians? I mean, any kind of sample questions, probably?
Yeah, sure, definitely, Tornigar. I'm very happy to give you this.
Yes, please.
See, as I said, there are two types of reviews, right? One is ASVVP, other one is TSVVP. In ASVVP is basically Administrative Site Visa Verification Program. In the Administrative Site Visa Verification Program, it's a simple compliance review. So most of the times, the questions which they ask you about is about the petition. What they'll ask you is that, are you an employer who filed this petition on behalf of this particular individual? You will say yes or no to that. And they ask you, did you employ this employee in this position? If he's employed, you will say yes. If he's not employed, you will say no. And if they ask you, if you say no, why didn't you employ him? What are the reasons? Or when is he going to join? Those questions will come. Other questions that come is, what are the job duties? They just want to verify whether the job duties you're providing them now is the same or not, job duties that have been stated in the H1B petition or not. And also they will look into it, what the full name of the employee contact details. And also they'll ask you is that who is the end client, what are the end client contact details, because they want to verify the information what you provided in the petition is true or not by contacting those entities also, the like employee and the end client or the vendor, whoever is involved, to provide information pertaining to this H1B petition. This is a normal ASVVP, that is called Administrative Site Visa Verification Program compliance. And if the targeted site visa verification program happens, if any officer, USA's officer or Department of State officer actually recommends to the FDNS to conduct this verification, then they may come and look into the actual operations of the business sometimes, look into it, whether the company is actually filing H1B petitions genuinely, or they're just filing because they want to exploit the H1B visa program and hiring people unlawfully, or whatever it is, basically, they will look into those questions. So based upon that, the information what they seek about the company can vary. But when a targeted site visa verification program happens, I always advise not to answer anything with the officers. You tell them to deal with your attorneys, let your attorneys handle that issue. That is very, very important. But if it's ASVVP, if you want to voluntarily participate, it's up to you, because it's just about the review of the information what you provided in the H1B petition, basically. So these are the simple questions, sample questions, which they usually come with the ASVVP verification, Torani.
Right, right. So, Bhanugaru, what are the steps that an employer and an employee should take when somebody from the FDNS approaches them pertaining to a site visit?
It's very, very, very good question, Torani, because this is the practicality, right? See, when any officer comes to you, or if they talk to you in any threatening manner or anything like that, you'll get scared and you try to speak something, which is probably sometimes lead you to be in trouble.
Right.
So first thing I would advise you is that do not panic or do not worry. Do not unnecessarily speak anything that is not required when the officer comes. And second thing is ensure that in the employee orientation during the time of hiring an employee, educate them, provide the details about the H1B petition, what you're filing, what are their job duties are, and also the reporting procedures of their work to the company and to the client, and how do they report virtually or in camera or in standing or stand-ups, how they're doing them basically, right? Or scrum meetings, how they're doing it basically, all those things, all that information has to be provided to the employee. And also, if they ask the employee how did they find the job or basically, and all that employee must be aware of exactly the relation between the employer and the end client, and exactly what is his duty as an employee of your company, and what are his job duties are, and what is the reporting structure, and all that stuff. They will not ask anything beyond that an employee. They'll only ask that. Only questions they may ask employees sometimes is whether employee paid any money to get this H1B visa program, or employee did not have any job, but they just sponsored H1B for him, or he did something with the employer to get an H1B visa so that he can stay in this country and find a job or anything like that. So you have to make sure that you provide all this information to the employee, and also ensure that employee does not speak which he is not aware of. Okay, you need to tell the employee, you need to train the employee that not to speak which he is not aware of. Especially in the IT consulting business where the employee works at the third-party client side, employees sometimes don't even visit your office. They always work virtually at the third-party unanticipated locations across the nation. They might have not even visited your office. At the time, employee need not make sure that employee doesn't tell anything about your office, how your office looks, where it is located, what is next to it, and all these things. So it's important for them to understand what to speak, what not to speak. If they're confused and if they don't want to speak anything, they can simply say that, kindly forgive me, I don't know certain information. I need to inquire from my employer and get back to you. Or you can talk to my employer. That's it. That's more than enough for him. You do not have to answer everything. Or you can simply say that I decline to answer. So this is the information. All these things can happen when employee provides proper orientation, proper training, or proper education to the employee on how to conduct himself. And also demeanor, your body language also is very, very important.
Right.
When you're talking to somebody, you need to be confident,
Yeah.
and you do not have to hesitate in your answers what you're talking. You need to be with clarity, especially you being a professional. They expect you to be speaking with clarity. Okay, so those are the things which are very, very important for the employer as well as the employee also. All these things has to be trained by the employer. And the employer side also, ensure that 1 or 2 persons only handle these site verification programs, basically site verification inquiries. I mean, you need to basically have a designated people for that. Not everybody should talk. Sometimes in the office, somebody will be there sitting in the office when the concerned person may not be there, and the officer walks in. The person who's sitting over there should not answer anything. They should say that the concerned person in the office is not available right now. He will be coming or she will be coming, and they will be able to answer you. Collect their information, gather their information, and get the phone numbers, their emails, and everything, and tell them that you will contact them. That's how you do it. Because even if you don't know anything, just don't talk anything like that.
Yeah.
Make sure that the employer also you basically assign 1 or 2 people who are fully aware of these H1B petitions. They have fully knowledge about the clients, the employee job, employee date of birth, employee information, whatever it is. And those 2 people, or those 1 or 2 people only in the company, should handle all the site verification compliance reviews. So that is very, very important. If they
Right.
don't do that,
So
these employers will be in trouble.
right. So, Bhanagaru, with that, we come to the end of the session, and we're very grateful for all the valuable insights you've given us. And I think what our audience has clearly understood is how vital it is to have an immigration attorney by your side to explain to you all of these important things about the FDNS approaching to you for a site visit and how immigration lawyers can help you. So, with that, we end the session today, sir. Thank you for being on the show. It's a pleasure.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be on the show, Torni Garu. Thank you very much again to Sakshi TV team, everybody, every one of you, you also, and everyone. You always have been wonderful. Hope to talk to you all again next weekend. You know?
We sure do, sir. Thank you. You're watching Sakshi TV. This is Torni Makana. Thank you.